Hello and welcome back to Radio Free Urbanism, a podcast about urbanism and stuff. Today we've got some interesting things, some good things, some sad things, and more of the above coming at you. But first, Nick has a sweet little update for us.
Yeah, it's actually spring today, and I know some people might not feel like it is, but it definitely is. And that means the next half of the year is going to be longer days than the other half, at least, in the Northern Hemisphere. So that's
Yeah,
really exciting. We had some good
yeah,
weather here in Vancouver on the weekend. It was like up to 17 degrees. So everybody was out on their bikes. It was beautiful.
yeah. It was like 18 degrees here in Calgary before, and now we are like minus 18 degrees for the last half of this week. We're getting like a foot of snow this week, but that's okay. Also, I failed. Normally, I'm like, my name is Alex Williams, and I've got co-hosts here with me. People who are watching the video may have noticed we are missing Ethan. We have a replacement for him today. Last minute, Hailee has agreed to join us. So say hi, Hailee.
Hello, everyone.
This is Hailee. And of course, we do have Nick Laporte here with us as well. Say hi, Nick.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, Hailee, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit briefly about like your relationship with urbanism and why it is that you care to talk about this stuff with us.
Um, so my name's Haley. I'm from Utah in the United States. Um, I'm like I'm 24. um, Alex actually his passion kind of got me started into thinking more about urbanism. I honestly am very new to it and I don't know a ton, but I feel very strongly about it because I we just moved in like to the biggest city in Salt Lake, and so like walkable area or the biggest city in Utah, which is Salt Lake. So the walkable, bikeable is very nice. I really
Yeah.
appreciate, and honestly, it's really not good here, but comparable to like, I mean, I lived in like a rural small town my whole life, so the comparison is
So there's some good stuff.
right, right.
Yeah.
There definitely is
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah, and I think too. I think Salt Lake City, like Utah area, has there's like a few underrated urbanism things going on in Utah, and we will get more into some of the optimism in Utah shortly. Some like actually like pretty exciting optimism stuff that is hopefully not just hopeful, but actually like positive.
Right.
So we'll see about that. But yeah, this is Hailee. She's going to be joining us for the conversation. Before we continue, Nick, do you have any questions for Hailee?
Well, I'm just surprised that it wasn't like, oh, it was not just bikes. I saw a video of not just bikes, and that's what
Yeah,
got me into it. It was actually this guy here, Alex. That's
yeah,
pretty
This
cool.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It's true. It's true. It's because I harass my friends about urbanism.
It's true.
And it actually
He
worked.
basically forced me into liking urbanism, so I have no choice.
I brainwash my friends. You're not the first. You won't be the last. I have I have a few friends who are like who text me and they say I can't unsee things now. And I honestly, guys, that goes to show like talk to people about this. Just like open your mouth and evangelize a little bit so that people start to see their cities in different ways and start advocating for positive change. Haley's got a story for us later, but first we're going to go to Nick with a kind of more transportation related story here.
Yeah, we'll get to the gist of it, but basically, this is a story that's been popping up. You've probably seen memes about it. You've seen the headlines, maybe. But anyway, this is about air travel. It's about Boeing. So Boeing has been having a rough go this year with a slew of newsworthy incidents. And you might have seen them. The landing gear that fell off during a takeoff. There was a plane rolling off a runway, a sudden drop midair, and that flipped some passengers up. I think 50 of them got injured. Flames bursting out of an engine during a flight. And lastly, the most controversial, or at least conspiratorial of the bunch, was a Boeing whistleblower found dead amidst an investigation of the Alaskan Airlines Boeing 737 MAX, which, let's not bring up the whole nose diving thing incident they had a few years ago with those planes, but
Hmm.
had a door plug come off mid-flight. And if you don't know what a door plug is, when I first heard that, I was like, what is that? Just like a small thing pop out. No, a door plug is essentially when you see the emergency exit doors, those doors are door plugs essentially. So one of those popped off mid-flight. Thankfully, nobody got seriously injured. A few people got hurt by debris that was flying. One kid got his shirt like ripped off from the force.
Wow.
But nobody was sucked out of the plane. There was no fatalities. They were able to turn the plane back around to Portland and land safely. So that was good. So a lot of scrutiny coming around with them making sure that their ducks are in a row and that their planes are safe to fly. So on that subject, I'd like to bring up and recommend a book that I just started reading. I'm about halfway through it now. And it's called There Are No Accidents by Jesse Singer. Some people, I'm sure, have heard of it. And the whole thesis of the book is essentially there are no accidents. And she first goes into talking about changing the words that we use in our vernacular and not calling, for example, a car accident, right? But anyway, she uses the word throughout the book without scare quotes. She calls them accidents. But in one chapter where she was talking about systems that fail in series, and she uses the analogy of slices of Swiss cheese, the holes lining up. All of these holes have to line up perfectly for an accident to happen. And more complex systems, when they finally do fail, usually have a much worse outcome than ones with fewer of those gates as you have in those Swiss cheese. So the one example she brings up is the Turkish Airlines DC-10 plane incident that is very similar to what happened with this Boeing 737 with its door plug coming off. There was actually, this is back in, I think, 1974, there was a door for the cargo, so a cargo door that wasn't locked properly. And what happened was that door got ripped off, much like the plug on the 737 MAX. However, the problem here was that there was no air transfer between the cargo and the actual passenger cabin. So what happens there is that whole section of the cabin failed from the pressure difference between the cargo and the cabin. And people got sucked out, whole rows of seat got sucked out, and the plane crashed, and which was very sad. This is the worst plane crash to date. I think almost 400 people died in this accident when they crashed in France. Now, what happened years before that, 2 years before that happened in the same plane, the same type of plane, a DC-10, it happened. And what happened after that? That they were able to land it safely just because the pilot had recent training. And that's great. But what didn't happen after that? They didn't fix the problem. They said, we promise we're going to fix the problem. We'll fix it. Of course we will, without actually signing the papers. And they didn't fix the problem. And that was the outcome. So the scrutiny is good. I think it's great to have on Boeing. They need to fix their crap because we don't want to have these things happen again. This could be worse the next time, right? We do not want to have fatalities. But the whole reason I'm bringing up this story is not to talk about airlines necessarily. It's to talk about cars, obviously. Like, come on. I want to talk about cars and how crap they are for us. So it's about the weight we put into airline safety when compared to road safety. Like, this Boeing story has been dominating the news feeds. Every time my wife turns on the news in the morning, I hear more about the Boeing situation. And occasionally you'll see stories about car accidents, but usually it's like just an update for traffic, or if it's an actual case where they're focusing on it, it's a human case where they're trying to be, sympathetic and emotional story about a survivor or something like that. Like the husband swerved the car just in time so that, he sacrificed himself for his wife and his kid or something like that. And it's not a call for improved safety on our streets, whether that be improving the infrastructure or changing the way that we build cars in the first place, right? So that's the subject I wanted to bring up. But before we really get into it, and I ask you guys to elaborate on your opinions about it, I want to ask a question to you guys, and I want Hailee to answer first, and then Alex, you can answer right after. So how many fatalities due to air travel do you think there were last year, in 2023, in the United States? How many fatalities?
Just a guess.
Yeah, just a guess.
I don't even know. Like, I'm gonna say 15.
Okay, Alex.
I'm gonna say 0 for commercial, and then a handful for private. Like if somebody's flying their own personal bush plane.
Alex, you're right. There were zero fatalities, and in the world there was 72 from one single plane crash in the whole year.
In the whole world.
In the whole year. In the whole world.
Wow.
That's right. As compared to, you guys know these numbers,
Yeah.
Cars, just in the United States in 2023, over 44,000 people died due to cars. And in the world, 1.2 million people died due to traffic collisions. It's it's astounding the fact that we spend so much time on something that is so incredibly safe and don't
Yeah.
spend the time on something that actually needs the focus.
Well, and air travel is safe because we've made it safe because
Yeah,
we've spent the time on it, right?
exactly.
Whereas these traffic collisions, if and the interesting thing is this, like we treat it like it's like an act of God, like it's a weather event, where it's like, oh, it's a this giant flood came in and wiped out this whole city of 1 million people, and there was nothing anyone could do. That's the way we treat it, and sometimes we don't even treat it like that. We're just kind of like, oh, that sucks. Like that's really sad. Glad that's not me. Instead of looking at it and trying to solve some systemic issues because it's something that we've created, right? Like we invented the automobile,
Yeah.
right? Like we could do something about this.
Well, we invented both, I suppose, but yeah, and the psychology is interesting too. You know, you hear about a lot of people who are afraid of flying. I have a
Hmm.
slight fear of flying. I mean, I just got back from a trip. I did 5 separate flights over those 3 weeks, and each time, I have a little fear in my head thinking about flying in a metal tube over 500 kilometers an hour in the air. It's kind of weird, but I am one of those people who's also scared of being in a car, especially on the highway. It freaks me out because I know what happens. I've seen what's happened in first person, firsthand, the results of that and dealing with that. And that's really scary too. So, yeah. What do you think about this, Hailee?
What's crazy to me is like the amount of time that the average person spends in a car is so much more than the time spent in an airplane,
Hmm.
that like you would think that people would be more inclined to like make car safety more important, or like more on their higher on their priority list.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's interesting too is the way we do car safety is kind of like a reactionary thing, right? Like we talk about when the car gets in a collision, this is how it, is going to behave. We have crumple zones, and then we talk about the car seats that we put children in, and seat belts and airbags and all of these things. But could you imagine if, like, for an airplane, instead of being like, how can we just make sure that, like, the airplane just does the whole trip safely? We said, no, 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 no. But when it crashes, I want to deploy those, like, those airbags that they have on the Mars rovers when they on the landers, and they
Yeah.
deploy those airbags, and then the plane can bounce safely down to Earth or something, right? It's like that's the way we talk about car safety rather than the way we do it with air travel, which is, hey, we're going to make sure that there are systems in place to make sure that when these things happen, right? Like the the door plug coming off of the Boeing plane. Well, okay, that didn't result in any deaths because of the pilot training and all of these other systems, these redundancies that are there to kind of pick up that slack. But then with cars, we're just like, oh yeah, no, you're gonna crash. Everybody does.
Yeah.
It's just normal.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty insane. And it's something when you're like, how do you fix that? And I'm like, is there fixing it? And then again, we come back to the joke of like, you just end up coming back to trains. It's like, we're going to put you on a track. It
Yeah,
connect you
yeah,
together. It's a train every time.
yeah. That's always the solution.
Yeah.
It's like every single time the solution is trains, and I think that might be a good segue into our next story here with Hailee, talking about Utah urbanism, and maybe hopefully maybe some more trains. Maybe before we get into the story, Hailee, can you tell us like the state of transit in your area right now?
Yeah. I was trying to do some research before earlier today, and Utah's not even in the top 10 for like best in the United States, not even in the
Hmm.
top 10 for like best public transportation. So it's like pretty bad.
Yeah,
um there are like 3 tram lines that run in Salt Lake City. There are no other tram lines in
yeah.
the state of Utah. It's pretty
Yeah.
big state. The bus lines are awful.
Yeah.
Usually like every hour or every half hour, not very frequent. Also to random places. Like I work at a very highly densely populated area where there's a lot of businesses, and like the bus runs every hour, and it is like, anyway, it's just terrible. Um so
Yeah.
this new plan, oh yeah, you go.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. Well, I just want to mention, like, Hailee, you've made a couple videos on Humane Cities on my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
talking about like the poor state of things in Utah,
Yeah.
highlighting. There's one I remember. There's one you like got dropped off by the bus on the side of the road, and then
I was
you're
just
like,
thinking about that one.
yeah, you're walking along, and there's a shoulder where there
Just like
and it's
dirt
and it's
and
just dirt
litter.
and gravel, like, and it's not like, oh, they didn't build a sidewalk. The shoulder is where you're supposed to walk. Like they painted a little human person
Yeah.
in the shoulder.
The bus stop stops at that place. It's not like a temporary stop that's like, there's no cement. It's just like you're right next to a car. Like it's
Yeah.
very dangerous. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's wild. I do say, before I keep letting you go, you guys have an airport connection though on the LRT, right? Is there a connection to the airport?
Oh yeah, on that one of the tram lines goes straight to
Yeah.
the airport, which is really nice.
Yeah. Okay. So there, that's a bright spot, right?
Well, and in Provo, there's the UVX line that's, first of all,
Right.
it's free, which is really cool. Second of all, it's a hybrid bus, so it's like half
Yeah.
electric, which is also pretty cool. And it's like it has its own bus lane, which is something that no other place in Utah has their own bus lane, so that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. They did the bare minimum.
They really did. But what's cool is, actually, I just learned this. The guy who designed the UVX is actually on the team for the Rio Grande Plan.
Oh, really? Okay, well, get into it. Tell us about this.
So, yeah, I was just watching some videos because he has this whole YouTube channel. Him and an architect they've worked on a couple things. He's a civil engineer. They worked on a couple things in the past, and they just came up with this Rio Grande Plan. So the Rio Grande is in downtown Salt Lake. It used to be a train stop, part of a train station. I'm not really sure what happened. I think in like 1999, they switched to have it be in Salt Lake Central, which is like a lot more east, closer to the freeway, not very accessible. So they're trying to kind of just bring that back while also implementing like a train box. Do you guys know what that is?
No.
No, tell us about it.
So I don't know a ton about it, but it's basically like an underground, it's kind of like a subway-ish thing. But I think there's pictures if you want to pull up that.
Yeah,
It kind
pull
of
this
gives a
up
better, on page 4, I think.
Think of a train box. I'm just trying to imagine what it might be. Coming up with something, being creative.
So I think I found, so it's like underground structure. Yeah, page 4 above that one. Yeah, do you see it? No, down more.
Is it down one
This
more?
one.
Okay.
Do you see in the top right corner?
It's
That's
like
a train box.
Right.
Is it like a cut and cover type of situation?
Yeah.
So underneath the road. So they got a railway on
Yes.
top and then the railway underneath. So that's
Right.
much like what they're doing actually here in Vancouver along Broadway.
Oh.
It's cut and cover for the extension of the
Okay.
SkyTrain.
So
And
they've done it in Reno, Nevada, and Denver, Colorado, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So it's
So
not
this-
like completely new.
Yeah, and I think this too, it's not necessarily cut and cover. I think some of it is just elevated. Like the tracks are already there. They're like putting it above. I
They're
think,
like, it's kind of like underground parking. He also compared it to. So
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then, I mean, obviously there's a lot of like logistics that go into it. Like certain trains can only go like 2% grade up and down
Right.
and things like that. So they're like, there's a couple things that they need to do, like, anyway. But
Yeah.
what is really cool about this is like 75 acres of industrial land will be open for development. And so not only is it like really nice to have the train station closer to downtown Salt Lake, but like 7 blocks, and blocks in Salt Lake are pretty big,
Huge. Yeah.
like a mile long almost. Not really, but really long.
Yeah.
Or actually 11 blocks, sorry, not 7. 11 blocks of new street frontage, which is super cool. So, and it's like way cheaper than tunnels. And I think there's some, on one of these pages, it shows like, okay, it actually almost brought me to tears today when I was reading about it, because it was just like, where does it say it? Yeah, 7 city blocks where thousands of new residents can live and work, all centered around the restored Rio Grande Depot. So right now it's just like a museum.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this is a cool train station.
For people looking at the video, you can kind of see it in this frame here. There's that the old train station building, and then it'll be surrounded by like this new construction and stuff.
Yeah.
So what is like what's the point of the Rio Grande Plan? Like why is this a thing?
I mean, it brings the train station much closer to downtown, and so it's
Yeah.
way more accessible for pedestrians to even get to the train station.
Right.
And like, because it's underground, like all of that like above on the actual ground that people are walking around, like it just like it's pleasing to the eye.
Yeah.
And also like it's cheaper than a lot of other things. I'm pretty sure it's cheaper than adding another lane to the highway.
Yeah, I think that's one of the comparisons they made.
Yes,
Do you want
I
to
think
give us like a
yeah,
brief
cheaper than
description of what I-15 through there is like?
it is hell. It is hell on earth. Especially with they're like constantly adding more lanes because for some reason they think that is the solution, which is
gonna
pretty
help.
comical.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull it up so people can see.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
This is the area we're talking about, but like
it's so
I-15.
ugly. Yeah. It'll also get rid of
huge.
like a ton of train tracks in that area. The Rio Grande Plan will, but yeah, I-15 has like 20 lanes on each side, and there's still so much traffic. Like, I don't know how they're not connecting the dots. Like, the lane's not gonna help.
Yeah, it's brutal. Look at this.
That's quite the spaghetti bowl.
Okay, that is so terrible to get around in. We have missed our exit like millions of times trying to get back to our house. Just that little like it looks like a spaghetti plate of spaghetti.
Yeah.
It's pretty embarrassing.
It's horrible. So the Rio Grande Plan is kind of like meant to kind of help. Is it going to help ease that traffic on the interstate?
I mean, that's the hope. I think just like because we're kind of, I mean, I don't think Utah is hopeless, but right now it's like it is very car centric. Like nobody could imagine their lives without a car. I'm pretty sure like the majority of the Utah population. And so I think that this will bring a lot of attention and a lot of like good, I don't know, publicity to like how good trains can be. And like the train system that we have right now is not the best, but I think that it will definitely be like a good thing. For everyone, pedestrians, it'll bring more land, more apartments can be built. Just like the tracks lines, like the tram lines will be so much simpler to get to. A lot of the railways, I think they were saying, I don't know a ton about it, but like there's a lot of parts of the city where like the tracks, like the railroad tracks are like in the way and like basically like blocking areas that could be like built for just better. There's a lot
Right.
of backlash too, which is so weird because they've got like an Instagram account and they're trying to like target Utah residents and say like, look, it's going to be a really good thing. But a lot of people are saying like, I can't live without my car, and like, what about the environment? It's like there's not really an environment in Utah, so I don't know what he's talking about. But it's really interesting to see the different things that people are saying about it. But I think it'll be fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk about it like it's happening. How likely do you feel like this is to happen?
I don't know because I just figured out. I mentioned before we started that I just figured out that it's not actually like in the works right now. We're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
get it to be in the works.
Hmm.
um, so the likelihood, I feel like it's pretty likely. They seem very optimistic about it, and so I'm gonna stick with that.
Yeah. I think we need a little bit more creative optimism like this,
Yeah,
when we're talking about city building and stuff. Because it is like so this isn't like a government plan. This isn't something that the government cooked up.
right.
This
It's
was
the
like
citizen.
yeah, yeah, there was one we talked about like a couple months ago, I think. Nick, do you remember that one? It was like the Vancouver Whistler Express or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of
Yeah.
it, but yeah, that's the one that
Yeah.
comes to mind.
Yeah, so it's exciting to see like people who know something about this and who care about these places coming up with these ideas and saying like, "Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do something about this?" Because yeah, this would be like an amazing plan. I like,
Yeah.
yeah,
What's
yeah,
cool about it not being into like an actual concrete plan right now is that they have like a website that you can like contact them and ask them questions like they're super open to like feedback, which is super cool, and like they're very adamant about like contacting your local government and like asking and talking about the plan and like seeing how it could be implemented, and also like saying like, well, this is where I live, like I don't know about this, and like they're super cool about like answering the questions, and they'll probably be that way while it's still coming into plan, but the fact that it's not there yet and they're very like flexible with it is really nice.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, every plan requires public input. Nick, do you have
Yeah,
some any thoughts or questions on
Well,
this
just
plan?
first to say that, yeah, about when you spoke about the backlash, every plan's going to have backlash. You could,
right.
have a empty lot that nobody uses and plan to build a park there, and people are going to be upset about it. So anything's going to have backlash,
True.
and something as drastic. Drastic is the right word. I don't know. Maybe some people would say
I
that
mean,
way, but it's
it
a big
does
change,
seem.
right? A lot of
Mhm.
people are going to have opinions about it, but it looks
Yeah,
beautiful, and I think that's what a lot of city centers need is some more walkability, and obviously
Mhm.
the transit access looks fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'll champion any city that wants to build more transit access. It looks great. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It would be awesome, and it looks like there would be a lot of housing that would come
Yeah.
along with this too, which I don't know particularly what the housing situation is like in Utah, but this looks like a really great way to add more. And I think projects like these can not just bring people together in that area, but like bring the city together. Like, oh, have you seen what they're doing with the Rio Grande? Oh, it's beautiful. When things start to happen, we can start to feel that optimism spreading because we're seeing it, right? And
Mhm.
we're saying, oh man, yeah, they're really doing a great job. Even if even even a lot of the people who oppose plans like this, I think once it starts to come out, they're like, you know what, I like it. Like they go, you
Right.
can't help but feel like you like it. A great example of that in Calgary here is the public library. It was an expensive building, but Haley's been there too. Like
Best
it's a
place I've
beautiful
ever
building.
been. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible. So yeah. Any final thoughts on this story, Haley?
If anybody listening lives in Utah, definitely call your locals because
Yeah.
we need to get this into action. It will be great.
Yeah, it would be great. Much better idea than widening I-15
And
because
already very wide. Yeah.
it's so wide. And here, like this area, like the Wasatch Front, has just it has like almost like 3 million people, almost I think, living in this like valley or in
Like
these
just
couple
on
valleys.
along the
Yeah,
freeway.
all yeah, all along I-15 and Salt Lake and area deals with a ton of pollution problems because of this. Like I
Yeah.
think you're going to start seeing climate refugees coming out of that area because it's like it's unhealthy. Like
It's very
it's
scary.
not
Yeah.
safe. Yeah, and so I think that's one place in North America that's actually they have to make drastic changes if they want to be able to continue living there.
I think we were
So
at one point one of the top 5 in the world worst like
mhm.
polluted areas. Salt Lake was the valley.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Holy
yeah,
shit,
Like
that's crazy.
very awful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
That's
It's brutal.
surprising.
So
My lungs are
good luck,
probably
Hailee.
dying. Thank you. I'm going to need
Yeah,
it.
get a HEPA
Yes.
filter right now.
Good idea.
Seriously. But speaking of housing, uh, I've got a story that is optimistic. This one is actually really great news. The federal government in Canada is looking at reviving some post-war era housing strategies, which include a pre-approved set of plans of architecture plans for housing. So basically, this would cut months and months and months off of the time and like thousands of dollars. I don't know how much, but tons of money off of the cost of a home as well. The government of Canada did this in like the 40s through the 70s. They had a pre-approved catalog of housing options that builders were just like allowed to build. It made things easier for insurance purposes. It made things easier for planning committees and cities to just say, yeah, that's one of the approved designs. You don't have to go through the whole extra process. So this, in tandem with a bunch of other things, will help us speed up a bunch of our housing needs. So I guess end of 2024 is what we're looking at for the delivery of those housing
I
plans.
love this. This is like the old Sears catalog pre-built houses type of thing.
Yeah,
It's
right.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's something
yeah,
that definitely needs to happen for, we talk about walkability and having missing middle and stuff like that, but you know what? Houses still need to happen, and something that can make that happen faster would be a good thing because we just need more housing in general,
yeah,
even if it's car dependent and die inside. But anyway,
yeah,
it's really good to see. But there's a
yeah,
point that got brought up recently. Sorry, I'm going to take it off track just
yeah.
slightly.
Hijack. Yeah.
Uh, Somebody was arguing about housing in Canada, as they do. I'm scrolling through Instagram or Reddit or something, and somebody was talking about the taxes that it costs when you build a house. Like in Vancouver,
Mm,
it's like when you actually build a house, a huge portion of the cost is actually taxes. And people were complaining like we need to cut those taxes, but a lot of people don't understand that those taxes that people pay to build a house in Canada, many Canadian cities, is actually covering those costs that have led to so many insolvencies in the United States, in
yeah.
cities. Like
Yeah.
we're actually paying from building the houses for the infrastructure that's needed
Yeah.
for you to live there. So I feel like this is an actual solution to making the costs come down for building houses, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, totally is. I'm gonna pull up a few because a lot of these. So whereas the ones in post-war Canada were those were more of a like uh those were single family homes,
Yeah.
right? Those were I live in one of those post-war kind of pre-approved housing designs. And they work. They're efficient. They're like simple, right? It's uncomplicated. But these ones, what we'll be looking at being built in Canada more is is more of townhomes. So I want to show people there's this one company in Calgary called Rin Square, I don't know if that's how you say it or not, but there's no vowels. So, uh, but I like some of their designs. So I want to highlight a few here. So there's like ones like this, and they all
That's
use
pretty.
like, yeah, they kind of use this mix, and it's just like these kind of interesting uh, designs that we can see. And I think, things like this, it's just kind of it's different, right? And it's not like a lot of people complain about the infill properties that we see around the city, but these ones, they they use different materials, but they also like they use natural woods as well. Some of their properties also use bricks, but it just kind of like it's its own form, it's its own style, and I'm actually quite a big fan. I've driven past this one. This one when I was doing landscaping this summer. This was in the area, and it's just kind of like it's modern, but it's not like, do you know those like stucco boxes
Oh yeah.
that some of these homes are, right? They're just like squares, but these at least like you use natural woods and you use some diagonal lines here, some different shaped windows and stuff. I think it can be really, really quite nice. So I'm optimistic that maybe some of these designs might end up being used as kind of that pre-approved, hey, we're going with this. And I think too, something that is important to remember is those pre-approved designs can use like different colors and cladding on the outside. A lot of the pre-approval stuff is the structural and the interior. But depending on what neighborhood it gets put in, depending on the taste of the buyer, you can change colors on the inside and the outside. It's kind of that main structure that we're talking about getting pre-approved, largely for insurance purposes and passing by committees and stuff.
Yeah, I'm wondering how this is different than kind of a traditional suburb because, if you go into typical suburb, expanded suburb, there's just like a couple different house designs that they just,
Yeah,
alternate through. So I'm wondering like what's the process there and how they decide on those house designs, how, quote unquote pre-approved those are. But I don't know.
yeah,
Just
that's a good
open
question.
question there. If anybody knows, write us.
Yeah,
We want to know.
yeah. Send us an email at radiofreeurbanism@gmail.com, or leave a comment on the video on YouTube here. But I think a lot of those houses, the ones that you see in the suburbs that are cookie cutter, and there are some suburbs that do this better than others. I have beef with a few suburbs in Calgary, but I think a lot of them, they're just like the whatever house builder has. They just have like they just say like these are the ones we're putting on these lots in this
Yeah.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
and that's what you get. And they're all kind of a variation of the same thing, right? Like most of these single family homes, you can kind of walk in and you're like, okay, yeah, like this is the 1990s,
Oh
2000s.
yeah.
This is what you
Yeah.
got, right? Especially if it's like front car garage, which I think just ruins the street appeal
Yep.
of things.
There's one here in Vancouver
Um,
called the Vancouver Special, and people
yeah,
from
yeah,
around here
yeah.
know it.
Actually, let
That
me.
ugly flat
Haley, have you
front.
seen the Vancouver special?
Yeah.
No, I probably need to see it.
Okay, I'm gonna.
It's not very appealing from the outside, that's for sure. But it
Yeah,
doesn't have a garage, at least on the
I
front.
mean, it could. I think that it could be fine.
It could be.
I think the Vancouver special could be okay. Um, I think a lot of it comes down to like the colors and
Yeah.
stuff that
Yeah.
that you
They always
use,
had the
right?
front gate though.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
it.
yeah. That's the Vancouver
Yeah.
special. So I do hope. Here's the.
Oh, Utah Lee? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He did a whole video
Yeah.
on them. But yeah, I think I don't know. I'd like to see some like local designs, like just to give, because yeah, if they're just building like the same homes in Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, Edmonton, right? Like I don't know, let it have some local appeal, to it. Use local architecture firms, use local builders, to kind of let them have their stamp on this, like on this wartime effort of housing.
Yeah.
I think that'd be nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because,
Yeah,
when you think about those old houses from the post war stuff, they're pretty boring. And you can go see examples of them.
yeah,
Here in Vancouver, I know in the west side near Point Grey, there's an old quote unquote army base. It's not an army base, but it's where a lot of, military people lived essentially. And there's a lot of those houses, like the Strawberry Box houses and some other ones. And it's there right now. It's not going to be there for much longer because they're actually turning it into like a huge metropolis center in the future with a transit stop and
hmm,
everything. But if you're in Vancouver, you want to see that, go check that out. But also, talking about these future developments and townhouses, the one more recent video from the Urbanity about Edmonton, I don't remember the name of it. It's like, watch out for this up and coming urbanist city or something,
yeah,
is about Edmonton. And they have a lot of examples you can see in there of these more modern townhouses that have from infill development that are, some of them I really liked. Some of them
yeah,
they were kind of ugly, but yeah, some of them were pretty cool. That modern
yeah,
kind of retro development style is pretty cool.
yeah. You bring up not liking some of them. So this is like
That's just personal
the other
taste. It's
day.
personal taste.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a personal taste element to it, right? So that's a lot of complaints that people give right now in Calgary because we're talking about this upzoning thing, and I'm going to talk about this upzoning thing in every single episode until it's done at the end of April, April 22nd. If you're in Calgary, please come to the public hearing and speak in support of the upzoning of the city to RCG from R1. RCG basically allows for homes of the same height. It's 11 meters rather than 10 meters, and it allows for up to 4 units and then 4 additional units on the same property. So this is a really important thing. April 22nd, 2024. Mark your calendars. So the other day, people have different concerns around this, and right now in Calgary, there's this recall petition going around to recall the mayor, and I stopped to chat with this lady collecting signatures, and one of her concerns was the upzoning. She said, "Well, I want to recall the mayor because of this, 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 and the upzoning, the RCG upzoning." And I said, "Okay, well, what are your concerns about the upzoning?" And she says, "Oh, well, I don't, I don't want this monstrosity next to me." And I said, "Okay, I can appreciate that." And I said, "Yeah, I don't want to live next to a big building either." But I said, right now, if they tore down a single family home, whoever owns that property, they can build on a 10-meter tall building. RCG just says it can be 11 meters tall and it can have up to 4 front doors. That's the difference, right? Um, and she said, "Oh, really? Only 11 meters?" I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Huh." She said, "Okay, well, that's not that bad." And she says, "But like they're kind of ugly. Like infill is kind of ugly." And I do think we have an ugliness problem with our infill buildings. Like I think a lot of these new buildings are not very appealing. I think they're very appealing to very few people, and those people are wrong. But hopefully this catalog can help with that. Sorry, I'm going on like a tangent here. But this lady, she was saying that they're ugly, and I gestured to the single family home across the street from us that had been not redeveloped, but it had been renovated to have like it had a different facade now, and it had new materials that were different from the rest of the form of the neighborhood, and it had different colors than the houses beside it. And I gestured at it and I said, "Yeah, I mean, but they can build ugly single family homes too." And she laughed and she said, "Yeah, okay, good point." So I think, I was able to kind of bring her down to being like, yeah, RCG, it's going to be fine. It's not a big deal. Ugly buildings, they come in all shapes and sizes. It's not just these new infill ones that turn out to be ugly, right? It can be any
Yeah.
building could be ugly. But there are also beautiful designs in these new builds, right? In these townhomes. So I'm actually really optimistic. I think these could be a nice addition to our neighborhoods.
Yeah. And it's cool.
Thanks for
I mean,
coming to my TED
that you
Talk.
talk to people and you actually get some good responses from them. But it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about RCG, I'm sure, in the future. But the fact that
Mm-hmm.
it's basically like the lowest increase that they could have possibly done. It could have been lower,
It's
but
the
like
bare
it's
minimum.
like pretty much like
Yeah, yeah. Hailee, I'm curious before we move on to our listener mail section. I want to hear because we're talking about Canadian suburbs and stuff, and I know Canadian suburbs are kind of a different thing than American suburbs. Is there like do they have like a standard home design in Utah? Like what's the typical suburban Utah home like?
I never noticed anything, but my husband is from Massachusetts. And so when
Mm,
he moved over here, he's like, all of the houses look the same. I don't know what, what they look like, but apparently Utah has their own specific thing. I think it's just like red brick.
yeah,
Honestly, kind of similar to the Vancouver ones. When you showed those, I was like, oh yeah, those look like
familiar.
typical. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious to see, I don't know, maybe an analysis of like the built form of homes across North America
That
and
would be
just kind of see
interesting.
what the regional differences are, right?
yeah. I think the big difference you get, at least here, I've noticed this in Vancouver, not the Metro Vancouver area, it's a bit different, but front driveways and garages aren't that common here. They're very rare.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Yeah, a lot of back alley garages.
Yeah.
That's
I'm a big fan of
Yeah, it's
alleys.
same in
I
Alberta. There's a lot of alleyways. In Ontario, there's not a lot of alleyways. Very rare. Yeah.
really interesting. Yeah, our so Calgary's like 1990s era communities have like they're all front car garage. But now we're starting to move away from that, back to alleys. I like a lot of what we're doing now with neighborhoods. But yeah, so some optimism there. Hopefully that catalog comes out sooner than later, and we can see some beautiful things happening in Calgary. We're going to get on to our listener mail, and Nick's going to take this first
Yeah,
comment.
this one's from Sean Troy 312, sorry, 3127 3172. You know, the other guy
Mhm.
3127 is just sometimes other times. Anyway, how did you get that name with 3127? I want to know what the meaning of that 312 or 72 is. What is that? Anyway, they say leaving a comment in the middle of as prompted by Ethan. Speaking of Japan, I was looking around the island of Shikoku and saw a train route circumnavigating the entire island, tunneling through mountains, all to service a few small towns. Oh, I must have cut this off. It's too short. This is not right. What are we going to do? Read the next one. I'll come back to it.
No, no, is it cut off?
Yeah, because he asked a question.
Yeah, yeah. At the end, there's a question here.
yeah,
You just
just
got to
scroll
scroll.
down a
Oh,
little
it's in the
bit.
next box. Oh my god,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
an
yeah.
idiot! Looks like
scroll
an
scroll down,
amazingly
Nick.
scenic route. Do you have any favorite scenic train routes you've taken? This is very similar to, I feel like the last question we had last week about memorable places. But yeah, do
Yeah.
you have any favorite scenic train routes you've taken, Alex?
I do. I actually have a video of it that I'd like to share with the class. So maybe we can go to Haley first.
Mm. I have a. I lived in the Czech Republic for a little bit, and they have a much better train system there. It's from Plzeň to Prague in the springtime. It's very just rolling hills, green, beautiful. Love that.
That
Love that
sounds
train ride.
that sounds beautiful. Was it a commuter train? Was it just like a normal?
I think it was just like a
Old
regular old
it wasn't
České
like a
dráhy is
tourist.
what it is. No, it wasn't a tourist train. It was just like a regular commuter. But in that
That's
moment, I
nice.
realized I need to come back to the Czech Republic in the spring every
Yeah.
chance I can take because it's beautiful.
Yeah. That yeah, tell me when you're going. I will
I'll
I will
take you.
come with. Yeah. Nick, do you have a favorite scenic train?
Sorry, I missed my cough button that time. Well, again, like I talked about it last week, was being in Japan, and I feel like I can't get away from that. There was definitely some in Switzerland. That was a long time ago. That was there like 8 years ago. like any train you take in Switzerland. It's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, no, I think I still feel like I just love Japan so much. So I can't help it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll share mine then, since you hate
no,
talking
no, no,
about
no. I
Japan.
want to share this. So I actually have the video from Japan. So if you're on
Okay,
YouTube, you can
okay.
check it out. This is from the front of the train, and you can see this is not the train ride I talked about on the Shinkansen last week. This was the train
Yeah.
before that when I stopped off. This is just a local train. But
Did you record? You recorded this?
yeah, I recorded this, and this is just a local train, and you get a beautiful view of Mount Fuji just right in front of you on the train. It's just
Wow.
it's not as good as the one on the Shinkansen. Like the Shinkansen one is like right beside Mount Fuji. It's stunning,
Yeah.
and I did not get a good video of that because I was on the other side of the train, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Holy cow.
it's just incredible. You have to go to Japan to see Mount
Wow.
Fuji. It's incredible. Yeah.
Wow. That okay, yeah. Okay. We'll do a field trip to the Czech Republic and then to Mount Fuji.
On the
And
way.
then well, we're gonna do a crazy global trip, because we're also gonna stop in Wales. So this is like the most beautiful view
Oh
I've
yeah.
ever.
I think I comment on your
That's
video specifically.
amazing.
You had this in, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a tourist train. This specifically is you catch this one in Aberystwyth, Wales, and yeah, it is just like
Wow.
absolutely stunning.
That's incredible.
Stunning. Look at that waterfall,
Green,
man.
beautiful
Like I'm
green
Yeah,
fields and
literally getting
trees.
chills.
It's
It's
amazing.
so
yeah,
pretty.
yeah. Like shades of green you've never imagined. Except for Nick, because he's in Vancouver. But for us in the Rockies, we don't get greens
Yeah,
like
but I think we
that.
have the honorable mention of the Rocky Mountaineer, which leaves from Vancouver. It's very expensive, but it has like those open big window cars. I think it's
Yeah,
like $2,000 to take it, but it takes you north from Vancouver.
I think it's at least two
Yeah.
grand.
Oh, yeah, North Vancouver. It stops in different places. I think it goes up to what's that northern Jasper? Yeah, I think it goes up to Jasper, then
Jasper.
comes down to
Yeah,
Banff, and I think it
yeah.
ends in Calgary, or does it end in Banff? I don't know where it ends. Anyways,
I think it goes to Banff and then Jasper and then Edmonton. Calgary, we don't get trains. It's honestly the most depressing part of
fair
my
enough.
life.
Okay, that's too bad.
It literally, like, Via Rail skips over
Yeah.
Calgary. Via Rail goes to
What?
Edmonton. Yeah, but
All
not
right.
not Calgary. Yeah, the Rocky Mountaineer. I might actually take the Rocky Mountaineer, like for real, in I don't know 3 years or something. That'd be
Wow.
incredible. Um,
This guy, he's
yeah,
planning on winning
super
the
high on my
lottery, or
list.
he's
I am actually planning on winning the lottery. I'm banking on it, actually. Yeah, I have a bunch of credit card debt right now, just racking up, trying to get to that, like, 300 million mark. I feel like I could win $300 million.
easy.
We'll see. Yeah,
No
easy,
problem.
easy. I just have to win the lottery a few times, and
No problem.
Then you could
yeah,
take
it's not
me
hard.
as well.
Exactly. We'll do like all the urbanists. All the urbanists I know will be invited. It's gonna be a great time. Haley's got this next comment for us. You got that pulled up there?
Yeah. Listener
This is
Hall's
from
Emporium.
Jen Hall,
Oh,
friend
Jen
of the
Friend of
Hall.
the show.
yeah,
Nice.
former co-host.
The question is, what's one of your favorite movies featuring travel by train?
Okay, can I go first?
Yeah.
Me,
Yeah.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's
Okay.
Stone. I love Harry Potter so much. All of the movies. I don't care. Even number 4, Goblet of Fire. Fire.
Really?
Love it. All of them. And yes, one of my favorite parts is when they go to platform 9 3/4 and he sees Hogwarts Express for the first time. Gives me chills. Got chills right now.
Yeah. I do. I'm gonna have to think for a second. Haley, do you have one in
I
mind?
was thinking, yeah, because I don't know if you guys have seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but
Great
there's
movie.
trains. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's Jim Carrey,
I think
right?
one of the first scenes, and Kate Winslet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
That's
movie.
one of the best movies ever. And
Yeah,
also
it's really
there's a train.
I'm gonna say the Darjeeling Limited, because that's like the only one that I could think of where it like mostly happens on
What
trains,
is that?
and also
It's by
it's
Wes Anderson.
Oh,
yeah, it's a Wes Anderson film. One of his like earlier ones. Yeah, 2007 it came
Hmm.
out. And also one of his least popular ones. Like it's not like a huge one, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and that's also like the whole thing happens on a train.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's
yeah,
yeah, that's gonna be my pick is the Darjeeling
yeah.
Limited.
One of the worst
Um,
movies with train is probably Polar Express.
yeah, that I need to rewatch that because
No,
I
you
remember
don't.
watching it as a
You
kid.
actually
I
don't need
do, I
to.
do. We should have like a special episode where we just watch
Train
train movies,
movies?
like where we just talk about train movies the whole time.
Yeah,
That'd be kind
I
of
would
fun.
like that. There's some good ones, like the
Yeah,
Orient Express. That's a good
That one's
one.
fun.
yeah, that's a
Bullet
Yeah.
good one.
Train. Bullet Train was it was pretty crap, but it was entertaining.
Was that the action
Yeah,
one? Yeah, yeah, yeah. What other? I gotta every
planes,
time
trains, and
Ooh, Double
automobiles.
Jeopardy
planes, trains, and
happens.
automobiles.
Double Jeopardy.
What's Double Jeopardy?
There was a train
There's a
station
train.
in the movie. Yeah, it's a really good movie. Highly
Basically,
recommend.
any movie that takes place in Europe, there's just like a train in it.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even John Wick's got a train in it.
Oh,
They in the first movie. Have you seen John Wick, Nick?
just the first one.
Just the first one. Okay, it's in the first
Yeah.
one that they have like a fight
Okay.
on the. I think was that the first one? Yeah, or maybe that was the second. No, I think it was. Anyways,
One of the
doesn't matter.
scenes where they
Good
fight.
movies. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna move on to the next comment here from Matt Montgomery 2800. He says, let me put this on my main screen here. I got a doozy I got a doozy question about the urbanism movement. Urbanism creates a kind of dominating force in the things I think about. Like how often I show my wife a road that is big enough for bike lanes without taking away car lanes, or how Nick struggled to find another topic in his YouTube history. It employs a certain amount of dogma slash catchphrases, like the only solution to traffic is viable alternatives to driving, or car bad, train good, as we say so often on this very podcast. He goes on, there is the establishment of the unenlightened other in the form of car brain. Can you guys share your thoughts on the risk of sliding into political cult territory and ways to stay clean from that?
Yeah, this is
That's actually
it's
that's
a
a good
very good
question.
question, especially for this podcast. And if you don't know, when we first started it, I pitched the idea of the podcast to be the fuck cars of podcasts. I don't think that's what we've turned into at all,
Yeah,
but it was the idea and that we could be open and kind of gripe about things. And we're going to gripe about something a little later, but we could, be a bit culty and use words to insult people who annoy us. And we do
yeah,
complain about those things sometimes. But yes, there was a topic that we wanted to really dig into recently, and it was kind of almost this exact topic. And we haven't really got into it yet because there's just a lot of traps to fall into, and we didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But then again, I'm like, well, who cares? But anyway, yes, exactly. There's a topic that comes up often, and when I see people use it, it kind of annoys me. And that's when they just use blankly. They use the word conservative when we talk about
hmm,
urbanism, and it's
yeah,
really annoying. And I don't consider myself conservative, but I'm like, there's so many different levels of conservative that are
hmm,
involved in urbanism right now.
yeah,
There's a ton that aren't, but there
yeah,
are a lot who are. And again, the famous example
yeah,
is Chuck Marohn from Strong Towns. He's a conservative.
yeah,
People are, oh, he's a fiscal conservative. He's a Christian conservative with fiscal conservative tendencies. Okay.
hmm,
And it doesn't matter that he's a fiscal conservative. Somebody could be a fiscal conservative, but when you say conservative, all conservatives are morons. They'll never understand this. You're boxing those people into anti-urbanism, and you're going to turn people off. So yeah,
yeah,
we don't want to do that.
yeah, yeah. Urbanism is not a political movement. Urbanism is a movement for better cities, for like better quality of life. This isn't a political thing, and I think it's really important that people don't start making it a political thing. One group in Calgary that I'm involved with, More Neighbors Calgary, great people doing lots of great work. here in the city to make it better. We don't use the word NIMBY, or we try not to, because these are other people who live in our city, right? And the reason that they say what they say is it comes from a place of care about the neighborhood, right? I talked about this conversation that I had with this lady on the street corner, and I had a conversation with another lady at a city engagement the other week, and and these people, like, even though I disagree with them about how to build a great city, they want to build a great city, right? Like, that's important to them. We can talk about, like, racist things people say, but I think that's a separate conversation from people talking about the built form of their neighborhood, right? We can talk about all of that, but that's also not like a political thing, right? Like, it's not a political thing to be racist. You're just racist,
Yeah.
right? It's not one side of the aisle that is intolerant. Like, you just might be intolerant no matter what end of whatever political spectrum you're choosing to look at. And so I think it's really important that we don't make it into a political thing. And I do think, a lot of the words and dogma that we use in the urbanist space can kind of lean into that a little bit, but also I think it can be an effective tool to communicating it, right? When we use these words and how we talk about them. Those are my thoughts. What do you think, Hailee, of the cult of urbanism?
I don't have a lot to say, or I don't have a lot to add. I totally agree with you guys.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah, but yeah, even apart from being political, it is culty, and we tried to change our podcast slightly and trying to explain different not subjects, but just terminology that comes up on our podcast, and be open about that, because a lot of it does become very niche and in group, and that's something we don't want to do. So it's cool to have someone on the podcast who's not like a diehard urbanist and is more casual. So that's fun too.
Yeah.
I own a car.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
I shouldn't have said that.
You're off.
Wait, do I have to get cut?
Nick owns a car too.
I have a car.
Yeah, Nick, you're off the podcast too. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Car free people only. No car light in this place.
Car bad.
But no, car bad. But I think it is important that we don't get too in groupy about it, because I think it's important to keep those doors open and not be a gatekeeper, because when you gatekeep, you prevent things like the Rio Grande Plan that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You prevent stuff like that because you say, no. You're not doing it how I want to do it. Like, you're not one of us. I've been an urbanist since 2023 and you just started watching these videos now. You don't count, right?
Everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah. But like Nick said, the most important thing that we do is not identify it as liberal or conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever it is in your area of the world. That is not what this is. It is people working to make their city a better place to live.
And while we do complain about people who annoy us about, talking about certain subjects, it's not attacking their personal identity or political affiliations. It's the ideas that we're trying to, grapple with. Yeah.
That is a really great question. And I'm sure that's something that will come up again and again as we continue to have these conversations. Any final thoughts on that before we get into our Wugmug?
No, I think that we just got to segue perfectly into the Wugmug, which is what I have to bring to the table, which is complaining about what people say on the internet. And I see all the time and it annoys the crap out of me. Goddamn. Okay, so I was scrolling the Reddits recently, and people started talking about, obviously, cars and car dependency, like you do when you scroll Reddit, and you're on my Reddit account, and it's all urbanism anyway. Anyway, I keep seeing this pop up. It's the same sentiment. And people bring up the statistic, that 70% of emissions are created by 100 corporations. The top 100 emitting corporations produce 71%, I think it is, of emissions, as a cop-out for personal responsibility, saying these corporations are the ones who need to take responsibility for all these emissions and pollution in our world. They don't need to, tell us what to do and, belittle us for, buying plastic bags, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
However, I've got another question, I got to ask you guys one more question and try to answer this. What do you think most of these companies are? What do you think? What kind of corporations do you think they are?
Transportation.
What about you, Hailee?
I mean, I know Coke is up there, but
Coke is probably up there, but oil and gas.
oh,
Oil and gas
yeah.
makes up the majority of this list. And where does a giant chunk of oil and gas go to? The transportation sector and cars and the way we move around. You're voting with your dollars when you go to the gas station to fill up your car. And it annoys the crap out of me too. This is a different subject, but it's on the same point when people are like, oh, you're protesting oil, but that plastic bottle you're drinking out of is made of oil. And it's like, yeah, so is the person who just drove 400 miles today to their job. Yeah. Like they have a plastic bottle in their cup holder in the car. Okay. But anyway, yeah. So
we're all sinners.
We are. And it is, we want corporations to be more responsible, to make sure that the places we live are healthier and our world is a healthier place. But we do have a personal responsibility, and it does make a difference. We've seen it in places like, just think about when I was talking about last week, I was talking about my trip to Thailand and just how much pollution there was. It was insane how much pollution, the smell in the air. You just don't get away from everywhere you walk. You just smell like just gross emissions from cars and motorbikes. And I'm thinking, what if all of those people on motorbikes instead rode e-bikes? How massive of a difference that would make for the human experience. Just feet on the ground, walking around. Massive.
Yeah.
Like those are the changes that you do. It's the same cop out for not wanting to vote. My vote doesn't matter. We all make up. We're all, what do they call it? Sums of a parts of a sum. I don't remember the stupid quote because I'm
something like
something,
that.
something. I like it. I feel inspired.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Some of its parts. I don't remember. Anyway, it's it's both. It's both. It's not one or the other.
And I also want to say, like, in North America, we often use that as an excuse to be like, well, I'm in a North American city. There's nothing I can do. I have to have a car. Yeah. Listen, guys, I got rid of my car July 2023. I got rid of my car, and I thought it was going to be an endless well of content, just being able to talk about how frustrating it is to get around without a car in a North American city. Honestly, it's been fine. Like it's doable, right? Depending on your city, I'll caveat that, and especially like being in a Canadian city, it's like automatically easier than in the States. But there are a lot of places across North America where you can get around without a car. Give it a try. Don't get rid of your car right away. Give it a try. Just see what you can do. See how well you can get around. You can, if you can afford it, maybe even keep your car and just go car light. But it is an option. It is possible.
If I can do it in Utah, a lot of people can do it.
Yeah.
That's what I have to say.
Like, Hailee, how often do you use transit?
Quite often. I do work from home a lot of the days, so I don't even use anything.
So it's convenient.
But when I can, like, we've got a bus stop right next to where we live, which is very convenient. I use it a lot.
Yeah. Like there are options in your area, and even trying to, reorganize your lifestyle a little bit, right? Like I shop at a different grocery store because I moved, right? Not because I just love this one grocery store, but it's because, I moved to a different place, and now this happens to be the closest grocery store to me. That's where I get my groceries because that's where I can.
Yeah, and it comes down to the thing too of the car dependency and using that hammer for, everything. Everything's a nail. Mm-hmm. And you'll see, like here in Vancouver, obviously, like for North American standards, top 5 of urbanist places to live, right? And how many of my colleagues and friends use their cars to get everywhere, it seems, unless it's some special event. Like it's crazy
Yep.
because most of your trips are going to be like under 5 kilometers. And here in Vancouver,
Yeah.
way less than that. Like your commute's going to be the longest one. It's like, okay, you could use your car for commute. You want to, or you have to, fine. But so many of people's trips don't have to be in cars, but people choose to use their car. Right. That's
Yep.
like the grocery store
Yep.
thing, especially in dense cities. There's going to be something close to you. Like it's going to be very rare that
Yep.
you can't get to your grocery store with it, like without your car. You could walk easily for most people.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's worth it, honestly. The money I save by not having a car is worth that little few extra pennies I might spend because I shop at a local grocery store instead of Costco.
Totally.
Also, I'm a single guy. I don't need to shop at Costco.
Just it goes once a year. He's got everything, all the toilet paper he needs. He's got granola.
All the toilet paper, all the potato salad, and what else do you get at Costco? Those big muffins.
Hot dogs. Hot dogs, though.
Yeah.
And the pizza.
The hot dogs.
Yeah.
And pizza. And in Canada, you can get poutine at Costco.
Is it good, though?
It's not bad. Like it is not the worst
Yeah.
poutine. I've had worse poutine in Montreal than I have at Costco. So I don't know.
Fair.
I don't know, guys. Take that for what it's worth.
You want to hear something ironic, though?
Yeah.
So I used to live in London, Ontario. Very famous from not just bikes and his content because he's from there as well. So I haven't been to Costco since I lived in London, Ontario. And that's not because, we were car dependent there. I walked to Costco. I would walk to Costco.
Oh, nice.
It was just so close. And now I don't go to Costco because it's too far away.
Yeah. It's not walkable.
It's tempting though to get like an e-bike and just, take my e-bike there if I had one, but no, it's not worth it right now.
Not right now.
Hey,
not right now.
A couple kids pop out. You need to get those, extra large sizes of potato chips or whatever.
You need that whole like flat of eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flats of eggs.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Frozen crap.
So I don't know. We'll see. But this has been fun, guys. Hailee, do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up our little show here?
Just thanks for having me. Even though I'm not the best urbanist in the world, I appreciate.
You are the best urbanist.
You're
because you experience the city.
True.
Everybody's qualified to speak on this. It was fun having you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it on such short.
Yeah, thanks for filling in for Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, things to say.
I don't think I have anything to add to the rest of the show. I think we did a pretty good job here.
I think so. I don't have any final thoughts either. So I'll just say you can go follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Humane Cities. You can also see Hailee there. She made a couple videos, a couple shorts for the channel as well. Nick, where can we find you?
Oh, I'm at Nick the Door most places and Nick Laporte on YouTube.
Perfect. And Hailee, do you have anywhere you want to send people?
Go to Rio Grande Plan .org or com.
What is that?
One of them.
Oh, Rio Grande Plan saltlakecity.org.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You heard it here first, folks. Actually, well, you probably didn't. Maybe you did. But this was fun. All right. With that, I'll just say feet
Four
first.
wheels good. No, 4 wheels bad. Oh, crap. I did the Ethan thing. 4 wheels bad, 2 wheels
You
good.
did the Ethan thing. Hailee, do you have a little tag you want to say?
Car bad, train good.